Hello, welcome to episode number 87 of eBay Scavengers at ebayscavengers.com. This episode, we are talking about selling military surplus.
Yeah.
Oddly enough.
I don't really have a good grasp on who actually listened to this podcast, because maybe this might be a male-centric thing, but, But
I'm into it.
So, we sell anything and everything. The whole point for our store is we're scavengers. So we're just out there in the wild world. And if we see a good deal on things, we buy it and sell it, So we don't focus on any one thing. About 2 years ago, I was into auctions, and we still are. But I saw that there was a local auction in the next town over at a surplus store. I was like, that's cool. Let's go check it out.
Yeah.
So I actually went by it myself that day, and I just took our little hatchback car, and it turned out to be the craziest, coolest auction I've ever been to. It's one of those auctions where when I'm an old man, I'll tell people about it.
It's legendary. It truly was.
I think about it now, and I would have done things so differently because... But this guy was, he laid out almost his whole inventory in his front, yard area. And there was an auctioneer there. And it began. And no one was buying anything. Things were going for $1, $3, piles of shirts, piles of canteens for $5. And I was bidding on everything.
Why wasn't anyone buying anything?
I don't know. I assume... either the advertisements were bad or the guys there already owned a lot of this stuff, so they didn't want any more of it.
They didn't want it in quantity, probably.
I don't know.
Something.
I just remember that this was when, it was a couple of years ago, and we were still fairly early eBayers.
Yeah.
A fresh base, and I remember when... I realized that I had already spent $300, and I was really scared because we had never spent that much at an auction. And I was like, "Oh shit, that's a lot of money."
Well, what's so funny is I'm at home working. I think I was doing tech work on the computer. That's why I stayed home. But Jay comes home in our little hatchback car, and I could barely even see him in the car. I was like, what the hell?
It was so full. And I think about it now, if I had a bigger truck, or even if it didn't, I would have bought even twice as much stuff.
Yeah.
And just gotten back later. But yeah, I come home and we unloaded it, and it was crazy.
It was so much stuff. But the interesting thing was, we had sold... some random, we sell combat boots and, army jackets. We find that stuff all the time, but not in bulk. But we spread this stuff. We have a back deck, and we spread all this stuff out, and there was so much stuff, weird stuff too.
Yeah. Suspenders, patches.
We found, and this was a gold mine. We found this old cotton webbing.
Yep.
It was OD green number 7, class 3 number 4. This really specific cotton webbing.
Big rolls of it.
These huge rolls from the 50s. So you can't find this stuff anywhere. And this one guy on eBay was like, I want every single roll. And he paid $50 a roll. And I had 25 rolls or something. It was so much money.
And I just remember, for me, I was really worried, number one, because I thought I had spent too much. And number two, just because I was overwhelmed with the amount of stuff we had.
Yeah.
It was just so much stuff. And Ryan was really good. You just started making piles, and then we just started taking pictures. And the cool thing is I realized that I had gotten a lot of multiple things.
Right.
So we only had to take a picture of one thing in the pile, and then just put it up.
Yeah, well, that's the great thing about quantity. We just call it quantity. You have 20 pairs of, these exact same pair of pants. You take one, take a set of pictures, and then you're quantity 20. That's awesome.
Okay. But this story gets more interesting, and we'll share our experience because maybe some other people are into a surplus. So when we realized that we were just making crazy cash, on that $300, we were making, I bet we probably made $5,000 off of all that stuff. And so I actually went back to that military store to see if I could buy more stuff from him. But because it wasn't an auction, and I think he was really kind of bummed that he didn't make a lot of money on the auction, he wouldn't sell us for obviously the same as low price.
Right.
We bought a little bit more from him at a higher price, but it just wasn't really worth it. And he wouldn't sell it in quantity like we were trying to get.
I tried to get more. I did buy more webbing,
but we did sell. I mean, but we did pay a lot more for it.
Paid way more.
So then I was like, okay, I see these guys on eBay and they have just pure military surplus. There must be a place where they get this stuff. So I started doing searches. Maybe some of you have seen this. There is a government site. I think it's a private contractor, but they sell government surplus.
It's called governmentliquidation.com.
And we will link to it on the blog, but you know, it's basically an online auction. And, you know, when they're ending the war in Iraq or trying to end it in Afghanistan, they have to do something with all the stuff they bring home. And it goes to these at warehouses. There's a warehouse in Ohio and there's one in Oklahoma. And you buy it through the website and you bid against other people and then you have to go pick it up. So I thought I'd try it out. And again, this was different for us because we realized we had to put a lot of money up front.
Yeah, sometimes it was like a couple $1,000s up front. So that's tough.
It'd be really nerve-wracking because it would be almost all the money we had made for a couple of weeks, we would be buying this stuff. Right. And then I would have to drive 10 hours
there
to go pick it up.
A warehouse in Pennsylvania and there's one in Ohio. And those are the ones that are accessible to us.
Right. And then there's the other big one in Oklahoma,
yeah.
Right.
But we can't get to that one.
Those are the two big ones.
Yeah.
So we started doing this, you know, every month or so we would buy a big pallet of stuff. And the first couple ones were amazing. Like we got them for a good deal. You know, we'd put like $800 up front, but then like we would get 200 hydro packs, like those little camel
camelbacks, yeah.
And then we'd sell each of them for like $40, which is great. But then we got kind of burned a little bit where we probably paid a little bit too much for a pallet of stuff. And then when we actually got the pallet home, the quality wasn't as good as we had hoped.
Well, it was the quality. There were two things. We bought these insulated rubber boots that are for like dudes in the cold weather or whatever. And the first time we bought that was crazy good deal. We sold the crap out of those and it was so cheap for the pallet. The second time we bought them, like you said, the quality, like they were scuffed up and used and some were cracked and melted and weird. But we still sold them, but for cheaper. But then the camelbacks, one time we bought this big pallet of camelbacks and they said there was a certain quantity. And then when we counted them, it was half that quantity.
And what they said is that they weren't counting just the camelbacks. There were also some other like little tiny little components in there, and that's what they counted. And
that was a bummer.
And that's the problem about these online auctions is that they cover themselves by saying you can come to the warehouse and inspect it in person. And if you choose not to do that, then, you know, the pictures are the pictures. And we can't drive 10 hours just to go check out an auction. So we were taking a chance.
But that's why it's different than eBay. On eBay, you have to state everything exactly as is. But this military, you know, it's an online auction, similar. But they're like 2,000 camelbacks. And you're like, okay, I'm hoping that's what I'm getting. If not, I'm screwed.
And I'm hoping they just don't take a picture of the one camelback that's perfect and all the other ones are dirty.
Right.
What's interesting to me was when I would go pick stuff up, you know, I would arrange a time and I would see the other dudes in their trucks picking up its military surplus. And these are the guys that I bet have military surplus stores on eBay where, you know, they have like 100,000 feedback.
Yep.
They sell like 100 things a day. And the problem I found is that these guys buy in such bulk that they sell stuff cheap.
Yeah, really cheap.
And it became hard to compete with them because they're underselling you because their thing is about quantity. And so,
although I will say this, just as a opposing view of that, some of those guys do not get great feedback because they sell in such bulk, their quality isn't as good. So like you said, they take a picture of the best item and then they'll just sell stuff that's like got holes in it or stains, and people are like, what the hell's this? You know?
So, we've never lost any cash on these sales. We've always made money from it. We just haven't always made as much as we hope because, we always love to make 10, 20 times as much as we put in.
Yeah.
And when you make under that, it starts to become like, what's the point,
Right. So we've definitely hit some good highs, getting good deals on stuff that no one else wanted. But then there are times where like you said, we've always done better than even.
I think that's I think this story for us has taught us about the magic of scavenging. If something is hard to find, then obviously you're going to be the one that has it, and you can sell it for the price that you want. But I know I see it on the people that sell on Amazon FBA.
Yeah.
They buy stuff in bulk from China, or these military guys buy in bulk from the government. I mean, it's easy to do that, and because it's easy, other people are doing that too.
Right.
So everyone's doing the easy thing and then competing on price, and then it's all about you got to sell in bulk. Right. And I just think for us, we just don't really like that business model so much. Like, we like scavenging the really odd, rare, items, the ones where not a lot of the people are going to have it.
Yeah, because then you can charge more and it's more rare. But the great thing about these types of auctions, liquidation auctions, is you can sell in quantity. Like, you can literally say, I have these insulated rubber boots and I have 200 pair.
Yeah.
And they're super popular in the winter for the dudes up in North Dakota and Alaska, If
you check out their website that we'll link to from our blog, if you live near Ohio or Oklahoma where their main warehouses are, if you could actually go and inspect the lots before you bid on them.
That's the best.
And you could guarantee you're going to buy 400 of the exact same kind of thing and the exact same
quality of it, yeah.
Then that would be...
That's ideal.
Ideal.
It's crazy not to be able to inspect stuff before you buy it. When you live so far. Well, the one in Pennsylvania is pretty close to us, but still a full day drive.
Right, but they don't all. It's also a much smaller warehouse, so they don't sell.
The Ohio one is massive.
I think the other thing is that you really have to have the storage as well. We were lucky that we had bought this second home that we were redoing, so we had a whole empty house to fill up. But I would come home with the back of the truck and a trailer full. Yeah. One time we bought these pants. We were traveling in California and I was addicted to these auctions and I noticed that no one was buying these pants.
Yeah.
And so I was like, let's go for it. We paid like $300.
Brand new pants with tags.
Brand new tags, army pants. And when I went and picked it up, I realized it was so much more quantity than I thought that I had to actually drive all the way back with a trailer to get it. So we had 2 full truckloads and trailers full of these boxes of pants.
Oh my God.
And I mean, and this is one of those auctions where we just made crazy money on it.
A lot. But I will say it's taken us a year or so to sell them. But that doesn't matter to us because we have the storage and it's all in quantity. I took all the photos. That was done a year ago and we still sell them every week.
Yep.
Now,
part of those pants lots too, this is something you have to be careful of. They were female pants.
Right. In weird sizes.
Right. And not common sizes. Common sizes. They became very hard to sell. So we sell them like so cheap. And
we literally sell them for $1 a pair. Yeah. But we're still making a profit because they were so cheap because no one else wanted them. So that was kind of a mistake, but I still sell them almost every week. So
yeah. So we just wanted to talk about its military surplus because it's just one of those other things that you can scavenge. I always would want to tell its new people to be careful about getting involved in these bigger, it's buying big quantities of things because if you're putting a couple $1,000s up front and it doesn't work out, it could just kill it's whatever business you're trying to start. That's why just going to Goodwill or, a thrift store and buying, $100 its worth of items and selling that is so much safer.
It's a lower risk. But there is another technique of doing this. So we still like selling military stuff. It sells really well. We find it at thrift stores sometimes. We found this guy at the flea market.
Yep.
Who had quantity of stuff, of weird stuff that we think is cool. Weird jackets.
He just pulled his truck up to our favorite flea market in the spring and summertime, and he was selling all this stuff.
Cheap.
And it kind of got my dreams of military surplus up again. I was like, this is it. So I actually asked him for his phone number, and I called him. And he opened up his store when it was closed, and we told him we would buy in quantity. Yeah. And he actually laid everything out, and he let us go through his store. And as long as we bought in multiple items, he gave us really good deals.
Now, we spent $300 there. This is a really funny story. I think I mentioned this before. We got a whole truckload of awesome military clothes and bags and weird surplus stuff. And I needed a twin mattress for this. Yeah. It's a couch bed. And in one of the storage rooms, there was this mattress sitting on top of all this stuff, but it was clean.
Right.
And it was just sitting there. And I was like, I'm going to buy that mattress. He gave it to me for free.
Yeah, right.
So that was $100 right there. But that was an interesting technique of working with someone who's I have so much stuff. I don't know what to do with it. He was basically a hoarder. He had crazy stuff, but he had interesting, military sweaters. We're always into those. I want to buy hundreds of these things.
And the great thing was, because we bought everything in multiple quantity,
yeah.
It only took us a day to take pictures of everything, because we only had to take a picture of one item from each pile and then just box it all up. And we've already made back our money, and it's slowly going to sell. And
so that's always a technique you can do for people at flea markets or wherever. If you're hey, do you have a whole warehouse of this stuff? I'll come by, I'll drop a couple $100. You're not going to say that, but you're making that kind of clear. I'm going to buy this stuff. And they always ask you why. So that's always a weird question of why. But I think we told this guy that we're
buying for your mom.
Yeah, my mom has a store in New England. That's always my excuse.
Yeah, we always hate to let people know that we might compete
with them.
It's with them.
Because he sells on eBay too.
Right.
But he sells other weird stuff. I don't know why he's not selling his surplus, but.
So that is our story on selling military surplus. If you have had any kind of experience selling this kind of stuff, I would love to hear it. Because not only is it fun to, find things in big pallets and lots, it's also fun. I love to see it all too, because I guess maybe because I'm a guy, I love all the army stuff, all the military stuff.
Also because most of the stuff we buy is vintage. So you're wow, the quality of this stuff is so interesting, old bags. And we bought this whole box of tripwire. Yeah. That was awesome. I was yes, we are so buying tripwire.
And the cool thing about putting military stuff on eBay is that people will write you and correct you and help you find the right keywords. Because there's all these military nerds out there, and they love to write and tell you from what a year it was from, what branch of the military, what country.
If you have a jacket that has a certain patch and you're officer's dress jacket. They're excuse me, no, that is not an officer's dress jacket. That is a corporal, blah, blah, blah. You're okay, I'll change it. Thanks.
So, it's cool. All right, guys. Hope you have a good week.
Okay. Bye.